it is important for Nigerians to understand that there's a clear difference between a civil rights activist and an influencer. These two people are not the same. They represent two different things, although sometimes too, there may be an intersection where their work may meet, probably for similar cause or for a particular purpose, and then they might flow along. VDM is actually an influencer. He's not an activist, although for now he has not started taking adverts like most influencers would do. And for that reason, most people have not been able to see him for who he actually is. Whereas on the other hand, Omoyele Sowore is an activist, a core activist who has been tested over time. He has gone through the fires of activism and has been tested, battle tested, and he has been proven to be an activist. So VDM and him may not be able to operate on the same lane or in the same fashion. But these two categories of persons, what they do and what they represent, is it important for our society? The answer is yes. Absolutely yes. VDM is as important to our society today, just like Omoyele Sowore is and has always been. But it's important that we understand the difference between these two individuals so that when things happen, we can better, understand how to approach them or how to perceive what is going on. As an activist who Sowore is, Showore's position today is to mend, is to change the way our institutions work. Sowore is so influential and so important to the Nigerian cause because Sowore is someone who works to change the way the institutions of the country works. In fact, Sowore is so influential to the extent that if he's interested in a cause, he can pull in foreign governments. He can bring in global organizations into a cause to ensure that he achieves the change that he wants in the particular government institution. That's to say that Sowore is an institutional change maker, someone who can bring two governments together, someone who can pull in the influence of another government to change something that he wants that is not right in Nigeria. That's how powerful Omoyele Sowore is. Whereas on the other hand, VDM is someone who raises awareness. VDM is a social media, influencer who mobilizes the conscience of the people through his massive following so that people can be aware of what is happening. VDM cannot bring about institutional change the way Sowore will do. And these two people are not the same. So it is important that people understand. And it's unfortunate that most times the activists themselves are not always respected or extolled while they are still around. It is only very few activists that normally get the accolades for what they do while they are still alive. But it is until they are no longer on the scene, that's when the world begins to sing their praises and shower them with encomiums and all of that. And we've seen it over and over again. The Malcolm X, the Martin Luther King Jr., the Ken Saro-Wiwa, and all of those people. When they are alive, people don't really understand the work that they are doing until they are gone. Whereas the influencers are people who chases for attention, people who create scenarios for attention because their relevance, is squarely based on the attention that they can get per time. That's why if you see an influencer, every day an influencer must do one thing or the other to ensure that he's constantly in the news because their reverence, their importance is based on how much they can stay in the news. That's the reason why you see the pattern of whoever is an influencer, just as VDM is, they must always, chase for attention to ensure that they are always on the lips of everybody. But the activists don't do that. In fact, in activism, there is a principle that every true activist goes by, which says, tell no lie and claim no easy victory. As an activist, when you achieve any victory or any milestone in any cause that you embarked upon, automatically it brings about sobriety. When you reach a milestone or achieve any victory, you go into a sober mode, a reflection. But of course, as an influencer, whenever you achieve anything, you use that thing that you achieve to even create more buzz, because that is what sustains an influencer. That's why, when an influencer just like VDM achieves something or does something, he will immediately create another video to gloat about it, to brag about that thing that he has achieved. And that is the difference between the both. You saw how Omoyele Sowore came out when he heard that VDM had arrested Blood and all of that, because of course over time or recently VDM has been posturing to be an activist, someone who is fighting against the ills of the society and all of that. And for that reason, it became concerning when the same person who has been complaining about misapplication and how the elite class has been using the institutions of states against the poor people would now turn around to be the one doing the exact same thing that he has been criticizing or talking about. Of course, it's very concerning for someone who knows better to come out to talk up against it. Whether or not what VDM arrested Blood for was right or wrong, that one is a completely different matter. Of course, from what I've heard, the issue of criminal representation, copyright violation, and all of that, the issue is not in dispute. Whether VDM has a right to take legal action when his rights or his images are misused and all of that, that's a completely different matter. Nobody's arguing about that. But then we often say that it is not what you do, but the issue was about how he went on social media to gloat about the arrest of Blood. I, for one, too, I didn't feel very good about it because, of course, there is always opportunity for ADR, alternative dispute resolution, if he was not an influencer seeking for public attention and validation and things that he would gloat about. There are often, ways that he would have gone about it. But of course, like I said, he's an influencer. He has to be in the news and all of those things. That is the only thing that he can do, to keep, his relevance, alive. And that's not to say that he's not doing some good work. He's doing some very fantastic work. But it is important for people to differentiate between both, because I see a lot of people now criticizing Sowore, saying all sorts of things, because that's how Nigeria is. Just one mishap and the 1 million other good things that you've done in the past will be discredited and disregarded as though you've not done anything before. And a man like Sowore in Nigeria today is very, very important for our democratic journey and the survival of this country, because the man has been consistent. The man has proven that it's not about what he will gain and all of these things, but he has dedicated his life for the upliftment of Nigeria. And it is also very important to say that today I see Sowore as the mentor. I see him as a boss, someone whom I understudy a lot in my advocacy journey and all of that. But I don't, agree with him all the time as well. Because one thing that true activism teaches you is to understand that no man is infallible. So, yes, I see him as my boss, but there have been several times too when I don't agree with some of his positions. But one thing too that we should understand is that men like Sowore, activists like Sowore, most times, when they speak, it is not out of hatred. It is not out of vindictiveness or prejudice. Sometimes they deliberately confront just to create awareness or just to encourage someone who is already doing something right to do more, to go more than he's already doing. And an example of that was recently when he went to Abia State and then said some things about Governor Alex Oti, which didn't sit well with a lot of persons, and I just smiled. Sowore did not go there because he wanted to go and blackmail Alex Oti or talk down on him. I can also tell you that if you get to Showore's closet, he will also tell you that the man has tried compared to what it was before. But he needed to do that to encourage him to go further, because the truth is that there are still a lot more that is needed to be done, which also can be done in Abia State. Abia State is not yet the El Dorado it could be. So when a man like Sowore speaks that Alex Oti is not doing anything, he's not completely saying that he has not done anything at all. What he is saying invariably, which you may not understand, because you hear what he says from the peripheral or the surface level. What he's actually saying is that Alex Oti, go harder, go more, you can do more than this. But these are things that people don't see, people don't understand. But we in the civil society, that's the way we operate. Most times we come out to come and criticize the system because it's just for them to do more. And people expect that as an activist, you should take a break and sometimes go and commend the politicians and all of that. Of course, that would never happen, because the politicians, the government, they have people who they pay, whose duty and responsibility is to praise, is to project, is to highlight the good things that they are doing. Whereas the people on the other side, the activists, the advocates, their own job is to ensure that they put more fire so that these people in authority can go further to do more than they are already doing, because there's always room for change. There's always room for more. So that's what it is. It is unfortunate that Nigerians have misconstrued the entire thing and has been throwing tantrums, coming out to say things that are unfortunate against the person of Omoyele Sowore because of his position against blood and how VDM went about it. So just imagine me, Solomon Lenu, today, who have been advocating for good governance and police brutality and all of that, go now to go and use the police to oppress somebody because we had a disagreement or a misunderstanding, or the person committed a crime against me. So long as the thing is not a threat to my life, there will never be a day that I'll use police the way VDM have done. Today, as we speak, the IG of police today is my very good friend. When he was here as a commissioner of police in this state, he was someone I worked closely with, and I already congratulated him when they made him the IGP of police. Tunji Disu is a very great man. But imagine me using that opportunity, because I have a relationship with him, to begin to settle scores with everybody that I have issue with. Whereas in another breath, positioning or posturing to be an activist who is fighting for the defenseless, who is fighting for the downtrodden, who is advocating for the less powerful of our society. It will be too contradictory, and a lot of persons will lose faith in what I represent and what I do. And I think that this is where the issue lies, and that is what Omoyele Sowore did not like about what VDM did. As for the way he went about it, well, that's also another subject matter. Yes, he may not have gone about it the way he should. Perhaps he would have reached out to VDM, like many people have argued. But of course, we are all different persons. Solomon Lenu cannot be Omoyele Sowore, and Omoyele Sowore cannot be VDM. Different personality, different approach to things. But the truth of the matter is, at the end of the day, what is the motive for doing what you're doing? Is it a good motive? Is it for the cause of the people and all of that? So these are things that we should take into cognizance before we begin to take sides or take position. Unfortunately, Nigerians today are always on the speed lane. Social media is the high street where we just hit and knock you down without even considering your situation or even looking at the merit of what they are talking about before they jump into conclusion. So that's what it is. But this clarification is important so that we can pipe down a bit. VDM, very important personalities for our society at this material time. And I think we need to encourage them. We don't need to say, oh, VDM is too important. Oh, Sowore is too important. Or we need a Sowore. We don't want VDM. Or begin to sow seeds of discord that will create polarity between both men who are doing wonderfully well for the downtrodden of our country today. We don't need all of that. In fact, at this point, what I expected is people who have the reach to both of them to even call them together and ask them to pipe, especially VDM. Of course, Omoyele Sowore has long moved on, but VDM is still, firing up because, of course, like I said, he's an influencer and he needs all of those things to keep afloat in what he does. So that's what it is. Don't hate none of them. They are very important, fighting for all of us to ensure that Nigeria becomes better. And for VDM, also understand that blood is not the problem of Nigeria. Yes, over time, you've always accused him of, characters or behavior that does not project Nigeria in a good light. His involvement with, fraud that you've always accused him of. But then, look deeper and then see. If you look deeper, you see that it's not the major problem of Nigeria, and we need to redirect, those efforts of yours towards the real people who are the problem of Nigeria, who are the people in government. Pray that this reaches you and touches your heart so that we can all have a convivial working environment and relationship to move Nigeria forward. Thank you so much, and God bless you.